The SNK 40th Anniversary Collection is a celebration of SNK's legacy, going back to the furthest reaches in their catalog to bring us a bunch of their earliest games. When I first downloaded the title, product code received for free for purpose of review, the collection included 13 games, though more are being added. From my base install we had Alpha Mission, Athena, Crystallis, Guerrilla War, Ikari Warrior 1, 2, and 3, Iron Tank, POW, Prehistoric Isle, Psycho Soldier, Street Smart, TNK3, and Vanguard. I initially found this collection to be rather limited with its variety, where many games just feel too similar to one another, such as the 3 Ikari Warriors, POW, and Guerrilla War, or Iron Tank and Tank 3, or Alpha Mission, Vanguard, and Prehistoric Isle. It pleases me to know that this issue isn't going to remain, as we already have 5 more games announced for the collection, including Chopper, Fantasy, Munchmobile, Sasuke vs. Commander, and Time Soldiers. And they have even more games to announce later. So we obviously can't get into reviewing every game in this collection individually, or we would be here all day. But if you do want reviews for each game, Google isn't gonna steer you wrong. What I really want to focus on with this review is the highlights and lowlights of the features in the SNK 40th Anniversary Collection. So first things first, and this is arguably the most important thing, the emulation. It's mostly decent, but there are some problems that are apparently going to be fixed with a day 1 patch. So this one's pretty rare and doesn't affect too many games in the collection, but occasionally some games will, for one reason or another, display at the wrong aspect ratio. Secondly, in some NES games, you'll occasionally hear this kind of popping noise. Again, this is known and it's supposed to be fixed with the day 1 patch, but you're going to want to keep this in mind and double check those patch notes. With that, let's get into a practical example here. Here's Crystallis running on the SNK collection. Here it is again on my NES.
Many hours later.
Now side by side. You can see for yourself here that the artifacting native to the original NES remains, which some people might not like, but I believe the main purpose in emulating these older games is to recreate the experience of playing them on the older hardware, which I think this does well enough. However, you will also notice the picture quality in each game has been upscaled to run in 1080p. If you want to downgrade your image quality, the game has 3 video modes: no filter, TV filter, or monitor filter. I don't have a problem playing without filters, but the TV filter does help smooth out some of the jagged edges that become more apparent when playing retro games on blown up modern screens. The monitor filter, while pretty close to what they're trying to emulate the feeling of, is a bit too dark for my comfort. You can also turn borders on or off and scale the screen to 3 different sizes. If you're one of those people who set this to stretch mode, we can't be friends anymore. To add to your gaming and comfort options, while undocked, you can change the display between portrait, landscape, or mirrored portrait. So you have enough settings here to play these old games however you feel comfortable. But we got even more than this for gaming and comfort. If you grew up in the NES days and were tired of console ports of arcade games being really different, just know that it was all leading up to this moment. With many of these games, you can choose to play the console version or the arcade version. If there was a difference between regional releases, you can also choose to play different regions of each one, meaning some games have 4 different versions to choose from: the American and Japanese console versions, as well as the American and Japanese arcade versions. Most of them have decent control schemes as well, that you can remap how you see fit. However, there is one button that absolutely cannot be remapped, and that is the minus button, a dedicated root menu button. When playing NES games, I found the mapping of the minus button to be somewhat problematic, where it's second nature to me to think of it as the select button. Unfortunately, select is now one of your general A, B, X, Y face buttons, but start is still the plus sign. It's something you can get used to but doesn't feel very intuitive, and it kind of detracts from the feeling of playing the games as authentic to their original as possible. A standard New Age feature is included. Similar to other collections lately, you can rewind games while you play to correct your mistakes. This is a feature that I'm sure a lot of traditionalists would shake their fist at, but honestly it's something that I feel should be the norm for collections like this. Many gamers now were simply too young when these games first came out, and don't have the patience for retro titles that are this difficult and often cumbersome. Some of these games actually came out well before I was born. So as a stride to make these more accessible and marketable and enjoyable for a larger audience, I do feel the rewind feature is an option worthy of including in legacy title releases like this one. However, the rewind feature is kind of half broken right now. There were times where I feel like it would mess up some data and I would die for no reason after a rewind. But even worse than that, sometimes the rewind just wouldn't work. Maybe I'm missing something and I don't understand the rewind's limitations, but in some games, seemingly for no reason, the rewind function would just stop being active when it was just active moments earlier. Luckily, it seems the developers are aware of this and a day one patch is intended to fix these issues. However, I would definitely check on that before you go out to buy this. To help with the accessibility even further, you can save and continue your games at any point in time. One new feature I believe has never been in any other game before this that I think is super cool but will really make the back in my day folks angry. You can start any game by watching a tool-assisted speedrun play a perfect run for you. At any point, if you feel like joining, you need only to select to start playing and you will pick up where the speedrun left off. Love it or hate it, I think the feature is awesome. There's also some achievements packed into the game, and before you ask, no, you can't cheese them by using the speedrun. I tried. From the main menu of the game, we have an SNK museum, which honestly might be my favorite thing in this collection. Now don't take that to mean that the rest is bad or anything, but to mean that I'm a bit of a nerd who kinda loves this stuff. This museum showcases some of the company's history, and has some really high quality scans of old magazines, boxes, and game guides. Sadly, the game guides and many other materials are in Japanese only, but there is some good old English sprinkled throughout. What will come at final stage? Try to get there, you will be surprised. This museum is a perfect little time capsule, and if there's a physical print of this in paperback, I'd definitely love to pick it up. So the games are emulated well, and what isn't working right now is apparently getting fixed. The controls, aside from the rewind, are generally responsive, and there's more control schemes coming. Some of the control mapping should be reconsidered, and base game variety is really kind of hurting. But it won't stay that way for long. With the version of this game that I played, I can't say that I would recommend this at full price, though it is a great little palate cleanser and a sort of pick up and play title when you're feeling burnt out on larger games, which for me is exactly where I was when this code landed in my lap. I think the Switch is a great platform for a collection like this, as games like this tend to lend better to portable gaming, and I would say SNK probably agrees with that, as this is basically just a re-release of their PSP title, SNK Arcade Classics 0. So yeah, I did largely enjoy what I played, as some games like Crystalis are always a treat to revisit, and most shmups and top-down shooters are good to kill a bit of time with, but the collection definitely isn't without its downsides and limitations. I think as the base price of the game goes down and the rest of the games get added, and hopefully after a patch to fix some of the inconsistencies, this will look much more like a worthy investment. As it is right now, I'd say to wait on it. And that's all I'm gonna say on the SNK 40th Anniversary Collection. It's releasing everywhere this November, for $40 in the United States and $55 in Canada. To me, that's too much, but I do feel that in time the price and content will even out to be more worth it than it is now. So if you're interested in the game, just keep checking the patch notes and checking the price. It'll get there eventually. If you guys found this video helpful or useful at all, you know the deal. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video if you can. If you really love the video, consider supporting the show on Patreon. You'll get lots of videos early as well. Get back here!